Hey, what's going on, everybody? Navid is here. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur and creator of Virtual Summit Mastery, and we help people just like you exponentially grow your email list, influence, and revenue. And for this session, we are going to talk about how to cut your lead costs and grow your email list using urgency. And I have no one other than the founder of Deadline Funnel, one of my favorite tools out there, Jack Bourne. He's gonna come on here and he's gonna share some amazing stuff around the urgency and how you can actually leverage this in your own business to grow your list and increase your profits and all that good stuff. And just kind of a side note, I've used Deadline Funnel personally for years. I've recommended it to my students and clients for a long, long time. And although there might be some other tools out there that can do some of this, I think Deadline Funnel is the best one to do this and accomplish what we're gonna talk about. And we also have a 30-day free trial for anyone who's on this session, and sometimes to my customers I actually have a little bit longer trial as well, but you can test it out there. So I drop a link below. I think it's going to be at navid.me/DF, and then you can get access to this basically, and you see a page there and you can try it out, and I highly recommend you do that. But without further ado, we're going to get into this, and warm welcome, Jack, to the session.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I mean, we just kind of what I said in the intro here. Six figures before we even started one of our virtual summits, because we leverage Deadline Funnel and have this kind of one-time offer and kind of expiring this. And for our evergreen summits, it's kind of essential to use it because I haven't found a better tool to kind of expire sessions and all that kind of good stuff. But for people who are not familiar, we're gonna get into it right away with a presentation you have prepared, which is incredible. So let's get into that, and I'll kind of comment with some questions here and there and some of my insights as well as we go here. So feel free to switch over to that.
Sounds great. Yeah, it's great to be here, and I look forward to sharing lots of great info. And we're going to be talking about how to grow your list much faster using urgency and deadline. So one of the key things that I want you to get excited about is that I'm going to be sharing 6 very actionable ideas that you can start using right away. So there's a lot of ways that you can use urgency and deadlines, but we're going to be focusing on how you can use it to grow your list quickly and also sustain it over time. And again, these are 6 ideas that you're going to be able to use right away. So Navid, you did a great job introducing me. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I've been in the direct response marketing space for a long, long time. I've spoken at lots of different events, like the Dan Kennedy event, ClickBank's first event, at several Perry Marshall events. In fact, Perry Marshall is a thought leader in the paid traffic, both AdWords and Facebook space. And I was his marketing manager for several years, and I came up with a concept that I'm going to be sharing with you now. So I highly recommend for anyone who hasn't ever read this. In fact, Navid, have you yourself purchased and read the 80/20 Sales and Marketing book by Perry?
Oh, for sure, it's a classic. I think I have it even in my Audible account. I listen to it from time to time, actually, but it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, it really, really is. So I think it's applicable to pretty much anyone's business, regardless of what type of business you have. In chapter 6, Perry shares a concept that I introduced to him, and I came up with while I was working as his marketing manager. And if you read carefully, even though the book's by Perry, in chapter 6, he talks about how this idea, the tactical triangle, is something that I came up with. And so he's devoted an entire chapter of this book, and it's really become the foundation of how he teaches business owners how to really substantially grow their business. So we're not going to be able to cover the entire concept, but I want to give everyone a quick overview of how this works. So as you can see, there's this triangle. There's a T that stands for traffic, there's a C that stands for conversion, and then there's an E that stands for economics. So the main takeaway, the one thing that I want everyone to understand is that a lot of people get super, super focused on traffic, but where can I get the cheapest clicks? What's the best way to do my bidding on Facebook? All these different things. Should I use chatbots? Like, where's the best place to get cheap but quality traffic? And a lot of times that's the wrong thing to focus on. It's not that it's not important, but you kind of get traffic by focusing on other parts of the triangle, specifically the conversion and the economics. So when you focus on the conversion and the economics, that gives you the ability to afford more advertising, and also not just more advertising, but better advertising. You can reach an even higher quality level of client, or you can reach out to people who aren't even aware that they have the problem that you're course or your product solves. So as an example, let's think of two hypothetical entrepreneurs. So on one side, we have this woman, who I'll introduce in just a moment. And let's say that you were interviewing her and she said, look, I've been working on my business. I've really focused on the conversion and the economic side of things. And I can afford to pay $25 to get a new subscriber on my list. In other words, she's happy to spend anything up to $25. Then we have this other gentleman, and he says, I can afford to spend $5 per new subscriber. So right there, try to guess which one is going to have the significant advantage in building their list and growing their business. Right? It's pretty clear. It's the woman who can spend $25 per new subscriber. It really doesn't matter if he's a little bit better with his Facebook ads. Maybe he's a little bit better at writing the ads, or even twice as good at writing the ads. Maybe he's even better at picking out the right images. He knows he's got more experience, say, with Facebook targeting. In the end, it really doesn't matter, because whether we're talking about Facebook, whether we're talking about Google Display Network, whether we're talking about AdWords, even going out to JV partners or affiliates, she can afford to buy more subscribers to her list. She can afford to spend more no matter what the traffic source is, and her economics still work. And that's both the conversion, there's a conversion component, and the economic side. Now, this is not a hypothetical example, because this woman, her name is Alana Kaivalya. She is one of our Deadline Funnel clients, and we did multiple case studies with her that we put on our website, showing how she was able to grow her business 4x. And in fact, recently, she won a contest put on by Entreport, the email software or CRM. They have an annual event where they award the most innovative entrepreneur, and she won. And so you can see her here, super excited that she won this award. But it wasn't just winning the award and getting the recognition for all of her hard work. Her business grew 4x, and she had a silent business partner who she recently bought out, and her business continues to grow, and she's able to hire more team, and she's just automating things, and things are getting better and better and better all the time for Alana. And it's because she focused on her conversion and the economics in her business. And by doing that, she can go and afford to buy traffic that some of her competitors can't buy. Here's another example just to drive home the point. And this was an unsolicited email that we received in our help desk where this client, Luke, said, your product is amazing. I basically doubled my conversions with this funnel. Now I can increase ad spend and even get better results. So my point here is, no matter how you do it, whether it's with Deadline Funnel or something else, focusing on your conversion, focusing on the economics, which I'll get to in a little bit, what that's about. But focusing on those two things is going to give you the ability to buy the traffic that you want, to buy more traffic, buy higher quality traffic. And when you do that, you're going to be able to grow your list much faster. And it doesn't matter whether you're using Facebook, whether you're using Google, or whether you're going through, say, JV partners or anything else. So let's talk about exactly how. I promised 6 tactics that you can use and employ and put into action right away. So let's go ahead and dive in. So Navid, if you want to jump in at any point, just let me know, or if I need to back up, let me know.
Absolutely. This is great. So just keep going for now.
Okay. So the first thing is really an overarching idea. I truly believe that every promotion needs a deadline. A deadline, really without a deadline, you don't have a solid offer. You need to have a deadline. And so if there's any sort of offer that you currently have out there, such as just a sales page with no deadline on it, then you're losing out on conversions. Because if you think about how much we all procrastinate in all areas of our lives, you know that even when it's something that we want to do, we keep putting off actually taking action until the last possible moment. Well, if there is no deadline, then it's just not going to happen. Here's an example of a screenshot that I took from my cell phone when I did a Black Friday launch. So you can see that the first peak is the first big bump up in sales happened when the cart opened and I announced the Black Friday deal. Things cooled off a little bit, and then right before the deadline is when we had the biggest day of sales. And then here's an example from Perry Marshall's Infusionsoft account. 80% of the sales came in on the last day. Amazon had their biggest day of sales ever on Amazon Prime Day, where they're using two different types of urgency and scarcity. And Brian Harris, who has a really great blog where he breaks down what worked and what didn't in a lot of his launches at videofruit.com, he shows that on the last day, that's when his sales were the highest, on the last day before the deadline. So just imagine if you don't have a deadline on a promotion, you're missing out. So idea number one, just to recap, is to make sure that you don't have any promotions out there that don't have a deadline. Put a deadline on every single promotion. Idea number two is a specific free opt-in to low-priced offer with a deadline. So this is something that I know you're a big fan of, Navid, because one of the things, actually, let's just jump forward. One of the things that you were talking about just a few minutes ago is the power of being able to have a tremendous number of sales for your virtual summit. And so I think it'd be really good if you could just give an overview of your strategy and how you use a deadline when someone opts in for a virtual summit. And then maybe we could touch real briefly on how this can be automated too.
Absolutely. I mean, we have always been a big proponent of, people opted into our summits for free, and then we had, let's say, a $97 offer. Obviously, it depends the price point a little bit on your market. But before, we didn't actually use a real urgency there. Of course, we might have closed down the summit and stuff like that as different, but we wanted to add some urgency on the offer right after they opted in. And then we researched some solutions, but we came to, that deadline funnel would be the best option for us to actually have a real sense of urgency there, to actually, so people couldn't actually just easily, I mean, there's always ways, right? But they couldn't easily go back to the page if they had expired. And we usually used we tested a lot of different things. We tested 7 minutes, we tested, a little bit longer, but we came, for us at least, 15 minutes was 15 minutes was the time that we settled on that page. And we have tested in different markets, I think anywhere from around that kind of time to about an hour. Some markets might be more sensitive to this, but I think for us in our market, 15 minutes, that was a good time frame. And we actually put that on the offer page right there, but then also we could put it on the cart page, like the checkout page as well, if you wanted to expire that. And so people can't just go back and just save that cart page, right? So you can actually have this in real urgency, and you can use this in different ways. That's just kind of on the kind of the sales offer page right after opted in. In this case, we used it, and that drove over six figures in revenue for that list building school summit we hosted. That was the first version of it. Now obviously we're on to 2.0, but that did really well for us and helped us make a lot more money.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points that I want to point out is that actually two key points. One is that this works best, and I'll show you another example, but this works best when what you're offering is really, really tightly linked to what they opted in for. In this case, you're offering the recordings and some additional bonuses that are very tightly linked to the thing that they opted in for. They opted in for free access to the knowledge that these speakers are going to give. And then you're offering the lifetime access to the recordings. It's very, very tightly linked. If you were to offer something that was completely just something you pulled off the shelf, so to speak, and was really not tightly linked to what they're opted in for, this isn't going to work so well. The other thing is that you want to make sure, just as you pointed out, that you give enough time that someone can consume the messaging. And again, the more tightly linked it is to what they're opting in, the easier it is to explain and the less time you need to provide. Yeah. But just as a silly example, if you have a 15-minute video, you don't want to have a 9-minute countdown on there. You want to make sure that they can actually consume the sales message.
That's such a great point, by the way. I also wanted to share around this. The offer, I mean, you touched upon it a little bit there as well, but if they opt in, of course, it's going to be tightly linked. That's so important. That is obviously you're not selling something completely different, then it's not going to work. But also there that you have some bullets. It's a little bit hard to see on this image, but this is kind of the funnel flow. But really just having kind of a really irresistible offer. You can have a video there. Yeah. It could work, but you also could have just kind of, so people see what they're in for a summit. They kind of know what they are getting, right? So they see that, but then also seeing kind of the bonuses and stuff like that easily. So some people, they just told me, I bought without even reading the sales page, and then obviously the deadline kind of played a role in that. And some people might need a little bit more time, but then obviously, so I didn't get a ton of support by having something like this on there. So it worked really well for us.
Awesome. So let me show another case study, and this is really, really powerful. So let's say that you're not using virtual summits at all. Don't discount this because you can use this in your own marketing. I'm going to show you a really amazing example of this. So look at this chart. You'll see that if you can see the blue line at the bottom, and then all of a sudden it hockey sticks up. What this chart is from my friend Tyler Garnes, who runs Box Out Marketing. And when I did a training for his audience on the use of urgency, he wanted to share this case study that I'm now sharing with you. So the blue line is the number of $1 trials that he was able to help one of his private clients get after someone signed up for a free webinar. So before, they were hardly getting any takers on this, and then it just skyrocketed. So what was the difference? Here it was. So before, this is what the page looked like. You don't have to read the whole thing. I'll just point out a few things. Number one, I want you to take to notice that there's no deadline on the page. That's number one. Number two, notice that at the top, near the top, it says thank you. It gives a sense that, hey, what you've come for, this action is complete. So those are two things that I want you to focus on. Here's the after page. So on the after page, this client has a countdown, just like Navid was showing in the virtual summit example. And another important thing is that the webinar registration is just about complete. So it's giving someone this idea that, wait a second, you're not quite done yet. So they can't mentally just log off and move on to the next thing, open up another tab or close down this tab, because they came to register and now they're getting a message saying, wait a second, your registration is just about complete. You've seen this used with upsells and downsells after you purchase something. It's just giving the prospect's brain a warning signal that you can't turn your attention away yet. And so those two things are really, really important. So, and I would say the third thing is that this is, again, the idea of a really irresistible offer. So if you're offering something, it's really easy for someone to take a $1 trial. If this were saying, hey, your registration is just about complete, you came for a free webinar, how about a $5,000 training course? Your conversions would be really low. So this is what we call a soft offer, because it's almost a soft offer. A soft offer would be a completely free trial, but this is a $1 trial. So it's really easy for someone to wrap their head around, okay, this is a very low commitment. Yes, I want this, and then they sign up. So I want to move on to some of the other ideas so that we don't run out of time. So idea number 3, you can boost sales on your countdown with a countdown on your checkout page. And Navid, you already mentioned this, but this is really, really powerful. So one of our clients is Brian Moran, who is the founder of Samcart. And when he is selling his own courses and own products to his list, what he does is he uses a countdown timer on the actual checkout page. Now, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that if you're using a countdown timer on other areas of your site, so if you think back to Navid's example, if someone opts in and then they think, wow, yes, I do want these free recordings, and they see that there's 5 minutes left on their countdown timer, when they click through to the checkout page, you want your checkout page to show the same amount of time that they were seeing before. And that's one of the benefits of using Deadline Funnel, by the way. But whatever tool you use, you want to make sure that the time is accurate to them, not just when they showed up on the page. So here's another example of just something that I saw in the wild.
Yeah, can I just share something around that?
Yeah.
I was curious, actually, what you would recommend. For example, if they hit let's say for the virtual summit or any exam, it can be any sales page, and they see that the time is 15 minutes. And would you sometimes, let's say they go to the checkout page, would you recommend to have the exact same time, or would you extend it a little bit so just they have enough time to fill out the details? For example, if they browse the sales page, if they're one of these people, right? Some people go right away and buy, but some people, they take a little more time, and then it might be over when they hit the cart. What would you do there? Would you have a little bit longer, or would you keep the same as you I think you mentioned a little bit around this.
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I could see a point of making it of giving someone a different countdown for that sales page. If you're going to do that, then you would want to make sure that if they go back to the sales page, if they hit the back button and then they come back,
yep.
I don't want to confuse people, but let's say that there was 10 minutes when you hit the checkout page. When they go back to the sales page, to see, okay, like I need a little bit more time, and then they come back, you want to make sure that countdown is still counting. You don't want it to be something that starts over, at 10 minutes. So if there's only 5 minutes left, you want to keep the pressure on.
My idea was a little bit Yeah, my idea
I'm
was
sorry.
basically maybe having 15 minutes on the, or 14, 15 minutes on the sales page, and then maybe having 10 to 15 minutes on the cart, like, or
I
maybe
see.
another 15 minutes, something like this. So they just have that time
Okay.
to fill it out, or if they wanted to check some testimonials, whatever they want to do in their research process to buy it. That's kind of, yeah, especially since the time is pretty short here. In this case, though, it's 2 days. That's kind of makes a lot more sense. But in my example with
Yeah.
virtual summits, we only have like 14, 15 minutes. That's kind of why this is like a
That's
two-day countdown. So then in this case, it makes definitely sense to have the exact same on the cart as on the sales page.
well, this is an example of something that I love being in the business that I'm in, is that I get to learn from my clients just as much as I get to share what I know. So this is great. I think that's a
Yeah.
great tip.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure, again, that whatever the countdown originally shows on the sales page, you don't want them to, hit the back button, come back, and have it be that same time. You don't want the timer to start over again, because
That happens a
that's
lot,
just not
but a lot of
the
tools is like that, right? It's kind of starts over.
yeah.
You like all over.
Yeah.
You go there like 10 weeks from now. It's the same countdown basically. So.
Yeah. Don't. I just. Yeah. That's a good opportunity for. So I had to be really. I had to edit down the presentation. So one of the things that I edited out is that point. So let's just go ahead and make it now. You want to be completely. You want to use integrity in what you're doing. So if you show someone, look, you've got 10 minutes to fill out the checkout page, as an example, you want it to be 10 minutes, not, well, you can go back and come back tomorrow and it's going to be another 10 minutes. Like, you need to be honest, use software that's going to keep those promises for you. So here's another idea. Now, this will clarify what is the difference between, everyone understands what conversion is. Everyone understands what traffic is. If you think back to the triangle, what's economics? So economics is things like how are you pricing your product, and how that influences the economics of your business. Do you have an upsell? Do you have a downsell? Do you have cross sells? Do you sell things to people that didn't purchase? All these different things that can go into you calculating a higher dollar value that you can afford to spend to get a new subscriber on your list. Okay. So if you're just as an example, if you're selling a $10 ebook and that's your entire offer, that's going to be really, really difficult for you to afford to buy traffic, as opposed to if you've got upsells and downsells in the pricing for your various products. Although they cover a range, are higher. You're going to be able to afford to pay more. So idea number 4 would be boosting revenue with an upsell and a deadline. So here's an example from AppSumo where, and this, I was a frequent purchaser of AppSumo and still am. Sometimes you'll see an upsell and they put a countdown on this. So this is after they've made a purchase. And we know that this is, once someone makes an initial purchase, their buying resistance has gone down. And so if you offer something, again, that's very tightly related to what they just bought, there's a high probability, if you make an irresistible offer, that they're going to take it. Well, you can increase that take rate even more if you have a countdown on the page. And I want to share this example because I love this. Right now I'm in Australia, but for many years I lived in Florida. And so I would take my family to Disney. So you would think in the offline world, how can you use a deadline? Well, actually Disney has figured it out. And I love this quote on the right from Walt Disney: everyone needs deadlines. So I was walking around, they had these walls set up where they were doing construction on one of the rides. And so they had these quotes up and I saw this one. I thought, okay, I need to take a picture of this. So Walt Disney says, everyone needs deadlines. I agree. So here's how they use it in the hotel. Depending on what sort of part of the year they're in, sometimes what they'll do is when the cleaning staff comes in to clean up your room, they'll leave this cardboard clock. And so so as you can see here, they're offering to save 40% on your next visit on certain dates if you schedule before you check out. So the deadline is based on your checkout date. So everyone has their own different deadline, but everyone has a deadline. And so it's a really, really irresistible offer, very tightly linked to what they already purchased. And this is really an upsell. You bought one, how would you like to buy another? And here's a great offer, and here's a deadline. So Disney uses this as well. Do you think Disney is using things that work? Do you think they've tested this? Yes, of course. Disney makes a lot of money. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. That's why they use deadlines.
This is such a
So
great, by
idea
the
number,
way, Jack, this is a great example also with, I just wanted to go back to this briefly, like, I mean, online
yeah.
marketing would be maybe a one-click upsell or something like this could be, or any kind of upgrade for, making a deadline basically. You can have, I mean, upgrades sometimes don't, or one-click upsells sometimes don't have a countdown on there, but you can put a kind of a countdown and then obviously having a real deadline for this offer. If they don't take
Mhm.
it, maybe that means, okay, I'm not interested, and just redirect them to the confirmation page for that order, whatever it is, whatever flow
Yeah.
you had for your funnel. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and this is a so another way that you could use this without even a countdown would be if you put on a live event that's paid, then what you could do is you could borrow this Disney idea where
yeah.
you say, look, you want to book for next year, or this is the let's just leave it at that. Do you want to book for the next year event? You can save 40% or 50% as long as you lock in and pay in full before this conference is over. So
Pretty
that's
much
something
every
that
conference do this, like Russell
yeah.
Brunson, and any event I've been to, like traffic and conversion with Ryan Dice, and all of them,
Yeah.
they do this. They sell the next event on that
Right.
year's event. So that's a proven strategy. I don't know whether there's been for many years
Yeah.
going on. So it's a great strategy for getting more people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a very and it follows a lot of the principles we're talking about, which is you need a very tightly linked offer. Which
Yeah.
what could be tighter than, hey, you bought this, how would you like to buy next year's version?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to have a deadline and an irresistible offer. So idea number 5, boost sales even higher with 2 deadlines. So what's better than 1 deadline? 2. So here's how this would work. So again, Brian Harris, who does really phenomenal analyses and breakdowns of what worked well and what didn't work well in his launches on his site Video Fruit. He talks about how he made an extra $38,000 during his launch by having a deadline in the middle of the launch. So you've got your actually in his case he had 3 deadlines. He had a first day 24-hour deadline, and then in the middle of the launch he had an unannounced bonus, which everyone who already bought got the bonus. But then the deadline for that unannounced bonus was, I think, a 2-day deadline. And then there was the deadline for the overall offer, just like you would close down the cart at the end of the launch. And so there were actually 3 deadlines. But by adding in this middle deadline, he was able to increase his sales by 38%. So how can you use this even if, say, you're not doing a launch right now? Well, you could, if you're the next time you're doing a webinar, you could offer, instead of just having the 1 deadline for your overall offer, you could have a fast action taker deadline. And so there's a couple different ways that you could do that. You can make it time based, like Brian did. So let's take the webinar example. You could say, hey, but everyone who buys by midnight tonight is going to get this extra bonus. So it might be an extra module of your course, or it might be a one-on-one call with you or your team. It could be really anything, as long as it's, again, tightly linked to what you're offering. So it could be time-based. Another way to do it, which is really interesting, is to make it quantity-based. So you could say the first 30 people that purchase, or the first 10 people that purchase, whatever. You want to pick a number where that the number is going to be hit relatively quickly, but at the same time, not so. There's sort of a sweet spot. You don't want to have this quantity based deadline that lasts many days. You want it to run out pretty quick, but at the same time you don't want to make it too small, because then you're not getting as big of a boost in your sales as you could. So you really have to just use your best judgment to try to figure out what is going to be that happy sweet spot. But there's 2 ways to do this: time based and quantity based. And just as a quick side note, deadline funnel can do either. We have a really, really powerful quantity-based deadline that will actually show on your page the number that are remaining, and it's linked in with your cart. So as people are purchasing or signing up, the number will actually update on the page, and you can see it counting down. And then once it's gone, it'll redirect automatically for you.
Oh,
So
that's
my
actually pretty cool. I mean, this is something we are using as well with, for even for summits, you can have like expiring bonuses and and stuff like that that goes away. This is sometimes a little bit hard how you deliver that and how you set it up with your membership, but you can definitely do some urgency around this. We have done it for like for actually affiliate offers we have promoted, where we have kind of a, let's say there's a launch for Ryan Levesque or Stu McLaren or something like that I'm promoting. Then we might have for the first 10 or 20 who buy, we might have, they get a coaching call, or they get, let's say, a mastermind with me or something like this that is like very, everyone wants that pretty much, and we get a big spike there. And then you can also do, as you said, in the middle of a launch, you can actually have another kind of deadline, or in the middle of a webinar promotion, whatever it is, you can add these different deadlines throughout the promotion to increase sales, obviously, and that works extremely well. So I completely agree with you.
So here are some ideas for fast action bonuses. We mentioned them, but let's just run through it real quick. So the first X number of buyers after a webinar, or the first 15 hours after a special bonus is announced, or another one is an early bird pre-promotional deadline for your best clients. So if you have, so people who have bought from you before you even do your next launch, or you could set this up automatically, and we'll talk about that in just a sec. So before your launch, you could actually offer some sort of special deal, a short sort of private sale for your clients, and you can just make it clear, this is a sweetheart deal that clients only are getting, but here's the deadline. It could either be a certain number or a certain period of time, or you could actually combine them and do a time and quantity base, so whichever one comes first. So those are several different ways that you could do that. And then my final idea is to automate it. So systems are absolutely beautiful. They're going to absolutely change your life for the better. If you're running your business, as everyone starts off by doing launches, or at least almost everyone does. It's a very common way to bring your product out into the world. And there's a lot of benefits of doing a live launch, but you hit the point where you can't just keep live launching. You need to be running your business from the position as a CEO rather than the person who's hustling and grinding inside of your business. And so in order for you to be able to grow your business as quickly as possible and to do the things that are going to bring the most value to your business, you have to take everything that you can systemize and automate and put them into systems. So as an example, one of our first case studies that we did was with a guy named Nick Stevenson. He has an online course called Your First 10,000 Readers. And he was doing live launches to attract authors who are looking to learn how his system for getting their first 10,000 readers on Amazon. Because a lot of authors think, oh, I'll just write my book, put it up on Amazon, it'll be happy days. When in fact, they actually have to get people, they have to build their audience, they have to market their book. So Nick Stevenson has a system for doing this. And so he was doing live launches and he was doing it really well. But when he automated everything, he went from 6.5% conversion to 9% conversion, which is not a small increase. That's actually a big increase. That's a 38% increase in sales and revenue without any additional overhead, without any additional advertising. 38% more sales, revenue, and profit just from automating what he was doing as a live launch. Another example is that I did a podcast with James Schramko, and the title of the podcast is Triple Your Sales Using Software. It's a really, really great interview. But it was really James talking about how he was able to triple his business, talking about using urgency and setting it up in an automated way. So he has a 3-step process where his system automatically takes people through an open close cart sequence 3 different times. And then if they haven't bought by the 3rd time, they're basically off of his list. And by doing that, everything is automated. His business runs automatically. And so he's got an automated client acquisition system that sells people into his membership system. So especially if you have a membership, you really should check out that interview. And then we already talked about Alana Kavalia. She was able to 4x her business. It wasn't just from using urgency. It was from automating her business, automating her webinar that has a deadline and a special offer, and putting that on autopilot so that she could test different email sequences, she could test different ads, she could test different pricing. And she was able to do that because she was able to automate all the other parts of this. And then one of my favorite case studies is from Abby Ashley. She's an online course creator. And I loved it. I was interviewing her when I was on vacation in Sydney Australia, and I had no idea she was going to say this, but she said, "I've been waiting to talk to you because I was doing $10,000 per month with my course, which is really good. But then I started doing what you teach with Deadline Funnel, and all of a sudden I went from $60,000 per month, no extra advertising, no extra anything, just doing what using the tools and systems and education that you make available, and it just blew me away. And to see her beaming face and how happy she was, how the pride that just emanated from her about finally cracking the code. I mean, $10,000 a month is no shabby business, but to be able to 6x that, I mean, you can just imagine how thrilled she was. So it's great to be able to see clients like her who are just reaching new levels in their business by not just using the concepts that I've taught you today, but also to take it and to automate it. And that's really what Deadline Funnel is designed to do. So, whether it's using Deadline Funnel or any other aspect of your business, you really need to automate things, because when you start to automate different components of your business, that's when you're able to step outside your business, and you can spend your time on networking. You can spend your time on strategizing. You can spend your time on leadership and attracting talent and bringing new team members onto your team. And that's when things really get exciting. But it all starts with automating the things in your business that maybe, early in your business, you were the one doing all of these jobs and tasks. I'm here to tell you, you need to systemize and automate those businesses. One last thought that I'll leave you with is, if you think about McDonald's, the huge corporation, love them or hate them, they're a huge financial success. So I think last year they did something like $24 billion in revenue. Well, if you took away their systems and their automation, especially their systems, really they would just be another burger joint. So if you watch the movie The Founder, one of the things that really the key to McDonald's success is the systems that they put in place, so that no matter where you go in the world, the number of fries that you get is the same. All the advertising is the same. And that seems commonplace today, but really McDonald's is the one that really came up with that. And so if you take away the systems and automation, McDonald's is just another burger joint. So they wouldn't have had the financial success. So in the same way, you really need to come up with systems in your business and automate as much as you can. So that's number 6, is to automate everything. So the bottom line is to grow your list, focus on increasing the conversion and the revenue. And the fastest way to boost conversion and sales is with a deadline. I hope this has been really, really useful, and I hope that you've gotten a lot of very practical and tactical ideas that you can take and implement. You can either, what I would recommend is, we've talked about a lot of different things today. What I would recommend is finding one thing that you can do and implementing that in your business. So maybe it's the free opt-in to some sort of low-priced offer with a deadline. Or if you already have your funnel set up, and you've already got an upsell, but you don't have a deadline on it, add a deadline to it. So figure out which of the 6 ideas we talked about today is going to really be the first one that you can implement. And then once you get that up and running, come back to this presentation, see what the next one is that you can implement, because all of these could be implemented in your business. It's just a matter of which one you're going to implement first.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm putting myself back here for a little bit, but this has been incredible. I think if you're watching this, you're getting some amazing ideas for how you can use this in your business. Obviously, Deadline Funnel makes it a lot easier to do this than some other tools out there, and that's kind of what we choose to use for ourselves. But I wanted to kind of a few rapid fire questions before we kind of wrap this session up, because I know I've gotten this question before, because as I said in the intro, I've actually recommended Deadline Funnel for many years, to my clients and students in Virtual Sign Mastery, and to other people. We even have a review out there. We just kind of wrote this epic review on Deadline Funnel. I'll make sure to link up that below as well, including the trial I mentioned. But what I get this question, can this work in any market? I know I shared a lot of case studies here, but can this work for any market, kind of any type of product? So maybe you can address this a little bit, because I have people in kind of more, I guess, kind of softer niches, maybe the harp niche, harp music, tennis, and stuff like that. Does it work for people like that as well, and not just kind of in the online marketing space and more kind of common niches for, where they're used to seeing this stuff?
Yeah, so I can't speak to, say, harp music, but I do have guitar people who teach online guitar lessons, and they use this. So I would imagine it's very, very similar. It's a close analogy. So, and I have clients who teach online tennis instruction, and they use this as well. And another example, which I would say is kind of far afield of maybe your typical online course creation type of business, would be someone who's a consultant. And so you might think, well, how could you use that? One idea that I like to give for people who do appointments is that when you bring someone into your funnel, there could be a lot of different ways. It could be a free webinar, or it could be some sort of downloadable course or guide. In the email sequence, what you could do is you could set up a deadline for them to register for office hours, or to make an appointment. So if normally you charge $150 for an hour of your time, you might say, you can sit with me for 15 minutes, and I'll make it free, but you got to sign up by this deadline. And so that way, and then send them the Calendly link. And you could do this all automated, so that as people come into your funnel, each person could have their own deadline to be able to register for that call. And a 15-30-minute call might be a great opportunity for them to ask their questions, to feel more comfortable about you, and for you to determine if they might be a good fit for your business. So even if they're not running the transaction online, like for example, like you do, Navid, what you can still use this concept. You can still use deadlines. Deadlines are all around us, and if you think about all the different things that wouldn't happen in your daily life if you didn't have some sort of deadline that either you impose upon yourself or someone impose on you, it's really amazing. So deadlines really get us to take action.
Absolutely, and obviously I can geek out all day about automations and setting up these systems in my business to just kind of people come in and they can go through these sequences, and that's kind of essential for us using for virtual summits, especially evergreen summits. That's been a kind of recent years we've started to kind of implement this, and kind of seeing how we can push the boundaries, because it was not really around. It was a little bit hard to complicated to do some of this, because you need to have what you kind of mentioned a lot, multiple deadlines and stuff like that. You need to even expire links in your email. We're not going to get into that too much. It's a little more advanced setup for kind of this, but deadline funnel can accomplish this. You can use ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, some other email tools as well. You can expire your links in the sequences, in the automations, and that's actually how there's not many tools that can do this in a real urgency way, because obviously an objection might be, well, if they can sign up anytime, what's kind of the reason? But when they sign up, that kind of have this, they can't really go back to the same pages again, and that's kind of what you want to accomplish. And when you're looking for any tool out there to do something like this, that's kind of a core feature. And most, I think, I don't mean, you can speak to this, obviously. Do other tools have this, so they actually can, expire in the same way that deadline funnel works in emails and stuff like that? I think that's quite unique, right?
Not like we do. The reason why deadline funnel exists is because I basically built this for me, because I was searching, and this is many years ago, but I was searching for something where I could have an automated email sequence, but at the end of it, there was a deadline. And it wasn't just a page where if you saw the deadline on Monday and came back on Wednesday, 2 days after the deadline, that it would start over. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted it to be synchronized with the emails, and there was nothing out there that did this. So that was the birth of Deadline Funnel, and it's really grown in terms of features and the number of subscribers and what we can do over the years. And so now I want to. So let me share something that's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, Navid. So I did this test, and I'm almost finished with editing the video. But what I did was I did a demonstration where the last time that I came over to Australia from the United States, I opened up my laptop and I started recording the screen, and I started myself as a prospect in an example ActiveCampaign email sequence, and that started my deadline. So then I got on the plane, flew to Australia, spent the next 2 days recovering from the time lag, and then with only a few hours left, I went to the Apple store. I bought a completely new iPad, and on video, I'm unwrapping it. I load it, so I load up my stuff, and so all my stuff up, loads up. So I'm in a completely different country, completely different Wi-Fi network. I open up my Gmail, and when I open up the email, the countdown timer has the right time. And so that's the type of technology that we've built into this, is so that no matter where your subscribers are, no matter what device they're on, their deadline is going to be accurate when they're looking in your emails. Now, if you're listening to this and you think, well, that sounds great, but I'm not using emails. Deadline funnel still works. I don't want to mention. Let's take this away from talking about deadline funnel specifically. The key here is that you want to make sure that no matter what software you're using, that you're keeping your promises. And that's really what it comes down to. Is if your automation says that this Thursday is the deadline, then it better be the deadline. That's really what I believe, is that you need to use tools and software so that no matter what device they're on, everything's going to be accurate. So,
Yep.
if you find something, if someone out there finds something that works for them, then great.
Yeah.
But that's the care and consideration that we built into this, because for our own business, we want to make sure that even though it's as automated as possible, that our deadlines are real and genuine.
For sure. I mean, me and my team, we tend to review tools from time to time, and we haven't really come across. We even have checked out some competing tools in here and there. They're not really competing in my mind. Obviously, there might be a little more budget sometimes, but that's not always the best. Like you, obviously,
Right.
Jack and his team, that's kind of one of my favorite things. They have an amazing knowledge base. It integrates with pretty much any tool out there. They have more integrations than some big companies out there, right? They haven't even developed these integrations. But the Deadline Funnel, they got integrations with everything, ClickFunnels, Active Campaign, and ConvertKit, all these different tools you might be using already in your business. And you can kind of add on a Deadline Funnel to make this even better. And the support of Deadline Funnel is amazing and all this. So I'm a big fan. But obviously, if you find another tool that can do this that we have just talked about, by all means, drop it in the comments. I would like to check this out and even review it and see how it stacks up. But to this day, I haven't really seen that, to be honest. So we'll see if that comes around. But anyway, do you have any final kind of words of wisdom or anything you would like to share before we kind of wrap this up, Jack?
Yeah, I would just go back to the importance of systemizing and automating your business. I mean, we all have to start somewhere. So if you've got to start with a live launch, that's perfectly fine. But as soon as possible, you really want to get your business where you're not just acquiring clients through launches. You want to launch because you want to, not because it's the only way that you can get sales. It's the only way that you can get new leads into your business. Launches are great. Just make sure that it's not the only way that you know how to run your business. You need to get systemized and automated in your business so that your business can grow the way that, say, Alana's has grown or Abby's has grown. And so it's really through that automation and using systems in your business that you're going to be able to grow. And one of the first areas where you want to systemize is your client acquisition, and your sales. So you want to take everything that I put into this presentation, and you want to automate it as quickly as possible.
For sure, so important to do that, and obviously we drop a link also to the trial if you want to check out Deadline Funnel as well, or any other things. Also link up my review below, and also leave a comment below if you what are you gonna implement, that Jack shared here and that we talked about during this session. I would love to know, and obviously if you find another tool that can do some of this other than Deadline Funnel, I would be interested to know as well and check it out. But I think the link will be navid.me/df. And you can just go there and try it out. For my customers, sometimes I have a little bit longer trial as well, so that you can find in the members area in that case. But if you enjoyed this, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Ciao for now. Bye bye.